The guy that I want to spend the most time talking about, the guy that I really want to focus on is Mikel Merino. Not in my wildest dreams did I think that Mikel Merino was this good. I sort of looked at him based on the Euros as this guy that would just arrive at the far post. And there was a part of me that felt like, and I say arrive at the far post, I mean from that 8 position. There was a part of me, right, with Mikel Merino that looked at it and went, are we so obsessed with this idea of our left 8 arriving at the far post that we've opted for someone who can, yes, do that, but maybe whose all-round game isn't quite at the level that we need it to be. That's kind of how I felt at the beginning. And over time, he'd come into the team. Obviously, he had a disrupted start. Let's not forget about that. It would be remiss of me not to make that point, because I think it's really important. Really difficult to get started at a club when in a freak training ground incident you end up doing your shoulder the way that he did, right? So take that into consideration. But I never really got Mikel Merino. I didn't really understand Mikel Merino. Now that's not because he's a bad player. It's because my understanding was lacking. Or you could argue that he failed to show all of this stuff right at the start, or that he needed a bit of time, he needed an adaptation period, etc., etc. But what do I see now when I look at Mikel Merino? I see someone who's enjoying his football. I see someone who is multifunctional, who is very, very competent in the final third, but is also able to kind of flick that switch and become a midfielder again, and support the team structurally, support the team defensively, who uses his big frame to great advantage. He's not your typical Spanish midfielder, Mikel Merino, right? Okay. Has he got a good technical level? I'd argue he has, and we've seen that in particular with some of his finishing since moving into that centre forward role. But I guess the thing with Mikel Merino is that he can at times be a little bit of an eyesore. And because of that, I think you overlook some of the really good and positive aspects of his game. At least that's how I felt at the beginning. But as he's growing in confidence, as he's finding his feet, as he's more and more accustomed to what it is that Mikel Arteta wants from him, to what it is that he's going to get from his teammates, to how he can support them, we have seen a massive, massive upturn. And all of a sudden, this signing that people were probably in a lot of cases on the fence about before it happened, that people were questioning 3-4 months into his Arsenal career, all of a sudden, this bit of business looks like a really, really good one.